Is South Africa on the brink of a constitutional crisis? What would happen in the event President Jacob Zuma refuses to go? Is the ANC caucus likely to defy its leadership by tabling a motion of no confidence in President Zuma? And are opposition parties still calling for the dissolution of parliament and an early election? What time is it? It's question time. And welcome to the show. My name is Mpho. After weeks of speculation, the ANC announced earlier today that it has decided to recall its deployee, Jacob Zuma. President Zuma is expected to respond to his party's decision tomorrow. ANC Secretary General Magashule says the party noted that the country was going through a period of uncertainty and anxiety resulting from the unresolved matter of transition. Magashule said some of the matters the party was contending with was what he called opportunistic manoeuvers by the opposition in parliament. This, he says, include motions of no confidence in the president, calls for the dissolution of parliament, and other desperate acts. Opposition parties base the dissolution of parliament on the recent constitutional court ruling. It ruled that both the president and parliament failed to protect the constitution on the Nkandla findings by former public protector Thuli Madonsela. It remains to be seen whether both the State of the Nation address and the budget speech will be delivered anytime soon. We are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-110-4210. The number again, 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. And a reminder that you can stream us on our Facebook page, SABC News Online, and our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/SABC Digital News. My guests today are Professor Stephen Friedman. He's a political analyst and, of course, the leader of the United Democratic Movement, General Bantu Holomisa, who joins us from our studios in Cape Town. Before we get into the show, though, let's see what ANC SGA's Magashule had to say about the recall of President Zuma earlier today.
The NEC decided as follows. One, to recall its deployee, Comrade Jacob Zuma, in accordance with Rule 12.2, Rule 12.2, 21.2 of the ANC Constitution, which accords the NEC the authority to recall its deployees.
Okay, that was the SG of the ANC, Ace Magashule, talking earlier about the recall of President Zuma. Now let me welcome my guest, Prof. Welcome. General, thank you very much for joining us from the dry mother city there. How did you receive the news?
Well, we are not surprised because this news were leaked long before the announcement. So we are looking forward to hear the side of the president of the country. He is still the president of the republic. So his party has said they are fed up with him, or that, and they are now withdrawing him. So the public and other parliamentarians who elected President Zuma in parliament to be the president are keen to know what were the reasons for his withdrawal. On our side, we, in the opposition, for the last 9 years, we have been sustaining this campaign for Zuma to be withdrawn. Of course, as people know, the ANC flatly refused and defended him. So it would be interesting now to hear what are their reasons. Okay. Are they endorsing the reasons which were advanced by the opposition parties, or are there other serious allegations and findings they have had against Mr. Zuma? So we expect, therefore, President Zuma to take the take us into confidence as a country and be afforded his side of this, afforded an opportunity to address the nation and react to this apparent civilian coup, because Zuma should have been, ANC should have followed parliamentary regulations and go there and say, yes, we are withdrawing our member, but we cannot avoid this institution called parliament because Zuma was elected here. So let's wait then to hear what President Zuma is going to say. But of course, Zuma, if he were to say, I'm not resigning, then that would create a constitutional crisis, which we are already in right now. We have postponed SONA, and we are not sure when will SONA be. And so please, Msholozi, come to the studios or call the press conference, field questions, tell us, where are we? We know you as the president currently. Okay. We tried to say in the past, please go away, but your ANC defended you under the policy of collective, so-called collective. What happened?
Okay. Prof, in the event that the president doesn't go, and I'm opting for this line because, I mean, there's been a lot of leaks, a lot of things that have been said, and some are turning out to be true. I mean, the fact that they have indeed taken a decision to recall him. Now, in the event that he says, I really don't think I've done anything to warrant my recall, and I therefore am not going to resign, take it the way you want to, what happens?
Well, I think the answer to your question, and Paul, is in the last sentence of the ANC NEC statement, which nobody seems to have noticed. And the last sentence says that the relevant parliamentary procedures to implement this resolution will be activated. And that's a long way of saying, if he says no, there's only one way to remove him, and that is a vote in Parliament. Now, that creates a tremendous, it's not a crisis, I mean, there's no constitutional crisis, for heaven's sake, but that creates a huge headache for the Speaker, which will be very interesting to watch. Because the ANC is in a very difficult position here. They don't want to vote for the opposition motion of no confidence, but they have to vote for their own motion of no confidence. So what happens to the opposition motion of no confidence? I mean, the opposition tabled their motion first. It should be heard first. But clearly that puts ANC members of Parliament in an extremely embarrassing position. So that's the big dilemma for the ANC at the moment. What do they do in a situation where the Speaker says, well, the EFF proposed this motion first, we've got to hear the EFF motion first, and then the ANC members are in an impossible position. So I think that's the space to watch at the moment. But the answer is very clear. If Mr. Zuma won't go, Parliament must remove him, and the ANC has, I believe, in that statement said that they will go to Parliament and vote against Mr. Zuma if that's the only way they can get him out.
General, what Prof is raising here is indeed an interesting element to this whole development, because it would mean that the ANC would have to vote with you as opposition to remove their president, something which you are going to feast over, I'm sure, until the elections.
If the ANC is serving the interest of the country, I don't see anything wrong in joining the EFF's motion. However, they are free to propose an amendment to the motion. That is that would look like a joint motion of some kind. I don't think I don't represent EFF. I don't think EFF would be opposed to that. But what EFF would be opposed to, that would be a situation where Balekambete says, I'm asking you, or ANC is asking EFF to withdraw their motion in order to forward theirs. That will not work. the best solution for them best option is to amend the motion and agree, and then jointly they propose the motion. But what is important here, we must not create a bad precedent. We have created it under Mbeki, and I hope Zuma can simply tell ANC to say, I was elected in parliament. I've asked you, what have I done wrong? You failed to advance your reasons. Therefore, let's go to parliament. Then at least the public will have an idea as to what exactly is ANC's position, so that it's not like an era of some people who have suddenly seen an opportunity to grab positions and get into cabinet positions and so on and so on.
Okay.
So let's hope that President Zuma would say, you have humiliated me already as my organization. I think if I'm expelled or I'm recalled or I'm moved by parliament, at least I'll earn my respect.
Okay, Lerato, you are in Sharpeville. Welcome. Lerato? Oh, okay, Lerato is no longer there. Prof, ordinarily, members of parliament, and a party can just forward a letter to say, Stephen is no longer our deployee in parliament, therefore we are recalling him, Mpho is replacing him, and that's how easy it is done. But when it comes to a president, well, he is no longer a member of parliament. It is so complicated. Is it not time for a constitutional review?
No, it's not complicated at all, Mpho. I mean, you can't lump together a situation. We have a party list system, so you're quite right, okay? Party wants to remove me, put you there, there's no problem. But the president's not elected on a party list. The president's elected by parliament.
Yeah.
And therefore, the only body in the country which can get rid of a president is parliament, to put them there in the first place. I don't think there's anything wrong with that system. Why? What's the constitutional problem? He's responsible to Parliament. If Parliament says he can stay, he stays. If Parliament says he goes, he goes. And it has to be different to an ordinary MP for the reason I've mentioned, because the ordinary MP is not elected by the members of Parliament, but the President is.
That is on.
Mpho.
Ayate Mruduak.
Ke khosela ka enda twang.
Kamuhau Mruduak.
Ke sa buile na man.
Mre.
Thank you. And also I must greet your guests there, and Mr. Stephen Friedman there.
Sure.
Mpho.
Mre.
What the ANC NEC did today, it's a bit of relief to us as a society, because we can recall the society we've been calling left and right that these things should happen as speedily as they can. Mm-hmm. What is the most is that we are patiently waiting for the president to come forward and say to the South Africa at large, here's the letter of resignation, I'm going with people, and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
My biggest humble and my biggest request to the opposition parties, UDM, EFF, BA whatsoever, they play a very crucial role. But to them also, I'm appealing to them, let them be part of the solution to take South Africa forward, not be part of the problems in degenerating the countries going forward. I'm humbly asking them, if the ANC is a bit out of way, let them help us, the poor people on the ground, to take this country forward, instead of them taking the court, pillar, post, up and down. That thing doesn't help us, the poor people of South Africa. Let them come together and take this country forward.
All right.
Thank you, Mpho. May God bless you. Keep shining, my brother.
Thanks very much, Ndate. General, perhaps whilst you're responding to that, just also clarify us as to whether is the opposition still vying for the dissolution of parliament, and on what grounds?
Let's respond to the last caller first.
Yes.
Thank you for the compliments, my friend. But remember that it is the opposition which has sustained this campaign. That you cannot put a person to be a leader of the country who is facing some serious criminal charges. There was a dark cloud hanging over Zuma before he became a president. And we questioned this from day one as to say, why do you risk this person? Here it is now, ANC has answered us after 9 years. I'm not going to go back in details on that. Responding to the issue of the dissolution of parliament, you will recall that the Constitutional Court ruled that, or ordered, that we have failed as a parliament to hold Zuma to account. And also Zuma failed as well to, or violated the oath of his office. So we were saying when we were discussing this yesterday, say, well, Zuma is clear he's going to go home. But honestly, is there anyone amongst the current members of parliament from opposition and the ruling party who can raise his hand or her hand and say, I'm standing for a president's, I want to contest the presidents to occupy the position of Zuma, given that the Concord had also found us wrong. That is the argument of the opposition.
Okay.
What is missing here is the argument of the ruling party. Why are they recalling Zuma?
Okay.
Are they basing their recall on the Concord decision? If that is the case, then we are correct to say, all of us, we should say, South Africans who have erred, we are giving you another opportunity to fix this country.
Okay.
We as members of parliament, we have let you down. So it's a matter of principle. It can be argued and so on, but it would be interesting to hear what the Prof is going to say on this one, because he's good on research and analyzing and comparing all these institutions of the world.
Okay, hold it there. Wise, welcome.
Good evening, boss. Good evening to boss there, and good evening to the general.
Yeah.
The real opportunistic maneuvers here in South Africa is the ANC. How do you recall your president and say there's nothing wrong that was done by your president? You know, in my view,
Yeah.
they now starting to maneuver towards 2019. That ANC is the real opportunistic maneuvers, because you know what, about the people who defended Jacob Zuma when the opposition were demanding that Jacob Zuma must be recalled, Jacob Zuma must be removed. The people now, the majority of the ANC and EC, who didn't listen to that call of the opposition, are now listening to that call, not because of they care about the South Africans, but only because of 2019. You know, the strategy of the ANC has always been the same. They always started the campaigning a year before the national elections. And I wish the opposition parties can see this thing. It's not about them. It's not about us South Africans. It's about now the 2019 national elections. That is why even they are saying on the national TV that it's so proudly that saying that no, there is nothing wrong that was done by Jacob Zuma. We're only removing him because of this transition. What was? Those people, they're starting already for the 2019 elections. That's why they removed Jacob Zuma. There's nothing to do with us, that they care about us, or with the opposition putting pressure on them. It's because of 2019 elections. Thank you very much, bro.
Thanks, Wise. Prof, let me give you time to just respond. Well, General has confidence that you can provide some intellectual insight there.
Look, I mean, the reality, Mpo, is if we're going to dissolve parliaments every time they don't hold leadership to account, we're going to have a lot of dissolved parliaments, a lot of elections. You know, I think the reality here, which is perfectly valid politics, I mean, I don't have any problem with it, is that I think that the opposition are in a situation at the moment where it's very much to the opposition's advantage to have an early election. To be very blunt, and it relates to Wiseman's point here, the opposition is about to lose the greatest asset they've had in the last 10 years, Jacob Zuma. I mean, Jacob Zuma, absolute gold for the opposition. How many votes has he cost the ANC over the last 10 years? The opposition would very much like us to have an election when Jacob Zuma is fresh in the memory of South Africans, because the opposition feels that it would do well in an election like that. That is the reality. The reality also is that the opposition is not going to get its wish, and the reason the opposition is not going to get its wish is that it's going to be outvoted by the ANC, which has exactly the opposite set of motives. The ANC wants an election as far down the road as possible so that everybody can forget about Mr. Zuma. I mean, as far as other international examples are concerned, the question of dissolving parliaments, it's very difficult in any system I know for oppositions to get parliaments dissolved. It's sometimes quite easy, depending on the rules, for oppositions to stop parliament being resolved. But unfortunately, that is, or fortunately, depending on which side you're on, that is the reality in these systems. If you are the majority party, you have the votes to say, no, we don't want the election now, we want the election in 18 months' time. And whatever the rights and the wrongs of the situation, I'm prepared to bet that the ANC wants an election in 18 months' time.
Masilo, you are entering.
Yeah, I was given a lot of stay.
Masilo? Le kulotse kulugile le ka piata ko.
Kukore rata gore mmuso o busha gorna. Ba bona melato e ka e diregile go ka president. Na mola o re ke mabapile ge moetapele a difatwa a di ka theko a se ka melato a se tša gona a boya setilo.
Oh, le sanya ka bua Ntate Masifu.
Gore ke bona ka gore e ka mokae o le melato maraba ka ba motlosha. Jalo gane yolo o a ganela.
Ke nnete. Le bele reng ba dio motogela o ba ya seke melato ya gage e fela e le gore ba mmona molato a swaro e le gore a molato a bo
o sa tlo ra swaro go ya ka molao.
A wa ikwagetse Ntate Masifu.
Jalo a wa mala.
No, re lebogile. Well, Ntate Masifu there in Tsanen arguing that he must be arrested if he has done something wrong. General, I'm going to be a bit hypothetical here. A new president is going to come with a new executive, so to say. Who are the ministers that you would want to see gone?
It is unfortunate that I'm not interested in personalities. All we want is a new government. I've heard Prof, but we can't be. I can't agree with him wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Because he argues around personalities. I'm arguing around a principle which says the Constitutional Court has found both Zuma and House and National Assembly wrong. And therefore, that is the argument of the opposition.
Okay.
I don't want us to waste our time on that. Whether Zuma is, according to him, he was giving us an advantage. Maybe he's got somebody he thinks that he would do better than Zuma and we will not have a chance. I don't get involved in that kind of argument. There is a Concord decision here, which we are basing our argument on.
All right.
As far as the new cabinet is concerned, if there will be no new election, I hope that the advice I can give is that whoever will be the president after Zuma has left, I hope he can at least do a little bit of screening and also try and streamline his cabinet members. You can't just put somebody to be a minister of a department if he or she has no clue about that department. And secondly, this corruption, in order to end it, he must make sure that political directives will be a thing of the past. Hijacking of the powers of the accounting officers will be a thing of the past. Let political heads of departments do an oversight.
Okay, General.
I don't understand why they want to delve their nose into issuing of tenders.
Okay, General.
Let the DGs run their departments and then prepare memorandums for the minister and to the cabinet. Let's try and be professional.
All right, thanks, General.
Also, Public Service Commission and the President must be responsible for appointing DGs. Don't allow ministers to choose DGs for themselves.
Okay, General, thank you very much. Thank you very much, there, Prof. We have run out of time, but I'm going to give you a last bite.
Sorry, Paul, it is not a legal or a constitutional principle that you dissolve a body every time it makes a mistake. If we did that, we'd spend all our time dissolving bodies. The issue of the dissolving of Parliament is political, and that's fine, but let's call it what it really is and not invent other reasons for doing these things.
Well, we have run out of time. But that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching this show. From me and the entire crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Well, there's a salute from the General. Have yourself a wonderful time indeed.
Our stories.
How do I begin?
Our lives. When all seems to fail, we will raise our voices a bit louder for our justice.
I went into absolute shock. My whole body was shaky. I couldn't hold a phone, but there he was. I couldn't believe the nonchalance that they were still in the area 2 weeks later.
And in times when the justice system is not able to help us with our individual battles,
I'm willing to do anything. What are you doing? Nothing. Feeling sorry for yourself? No, it's not an option.
These are our stories on Cutting Edge Channel 404.
South Africa is in need of a frank dialogue about the state of our nation. My name is Nkandla JJ Tabane. Join me on Frankly Speaking every Sunday at 8:30. Come now, let's talk frankly.
A meteorite hit the Earth 2 million years ago, creating an enormous impact of crater, about 10 kilometers in diameter, near Vredefort in the Free State, 100 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg, now known as the Vredefort Dome, a South African World Heritage Site. The meteorite is said to have been larger than Table Mountain and caused a 1,000 megaton blast of energy. The impact would have heated about 70 cubic kilometers of rock and have increased the Earth's oxygen levels to a degree that made the development of multicellular life possible. The world has about 130 crater structures of possible impact origin. The Vredefort Dome is the largest in the world, followed by Sudbury Crater in Canada and the Chicxulub Crater in Mexico.